This past week, I went to watch a men's hockey game, and while I was watching the game, it was clear to see that some men were obviously more talented at hockey than others. Sometimes when we think of talents, we think of, oh, that's the person who's really good at playing a musical instrument. That's somebody that is good at sports, or that's somebody that's good at being in front of people. But the talents actually we can draw from that first reading from the book of Proverbs to really get talents. And really, I would say talents are anything that contributes to the common good. Now, of course, obviously, people playing hockey or somebody playing a musical instrument contributes to the common good, although I would say those are the lower end of talents. The higher end of talents is revealed, as I mentioned in that first reading. And the first is that this wife is trusted by her husband. And she's both industrious and she's virtuous. In other words, she's able to provide clothing and food for her family, but she also goes beyond that to help the common good of humanity. But one of the things that she also does is that she's good with the poor and the needy. So that talent, is something that God has blessed her with, and she doesn't bury it, but she is able to put it into action. And so really these are the qualities that we want to put in action into our own lives as Christian people. We don't want to bury these parts of our faith, but we want to live them out. Now, in this parable of the talents, obviously this is dealing with money, but we're going to apply it as talents, that's gifts from God. The two are quite active, and they do well with their talents, but the one operates out of, the first thing is fear. The second is envy. He's envious that he doesn't have the same amount of talents as the other. And then the third is laziness, And so we have to be cautious that this becomes the center of his life. And really, this is pointing to the scribes and the Pharisees. They had tried to keep the law, and they were afraid that if they didn't follow the law, that God would get them. And so this is the first thing. Then the other reality is that they are just used to the same old. So when Jesus comes and offers a different perspective, they're not willing to accept this. And so we have to make sure that we make Christ the center of our lives. In other words, that we use Christ as our perspective on how we are to live our lives, how we're to live out our talents. Now, really, in that second reading, the letter to the Thessalonians, this letter is really believing that Christ is going to come not now, but right now. And so while we're waiting for Christ, we ought to do our part to contribute to the common good of humanity. And I would say, that would be the very simple way to define sin is, do we do things that benefit others, or do we do things that takes life out of others? And so may we continue to find ways to build up the body of Christ. And so as we gather around the table, Lord, whatever talents we've been given, it's really about the effort. Have we put in the effort? And Jesus will put in the effort to be present with us, to encourage us, so that we can receive this daily bread and we can go and give daily bread to others, bring life to our world.